day, snow-capped mountains in the background, festive scene around the Delta Center. NBA Finals fever has taken over this city where they just love their Utah Jazz. The crowd revving it up here at the start as both the Jazz and the Bulls are completing their pregame warm-ups. And just moments ago, watch Chicago Bulls head coach Phil Jackson going to the earplugs, not taking any chances. I understand several Bulls players went to the earplugs in the second half of the game the other night. I don't know if this is going to work. Let's see. Phil is still testing it. And we're set for the introduction of the starting lineups. We go to one of the NBA's classic public address announcing voices, Dan Roberts.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the Delta Center. This is the NBA Finals game number 4. Introducing the starting lineup for the Chicago Bulls. Wearing number 33, starting forward at 6'7" from Central Arkansas, Scottie Pippen. Starting at forward, wearing number 91 at 6'6" from Southeast Oklahoma State, Dennis Rodman. The starting center, wearing number 13 at 7'2" from New Mexico, Luke Longley. On the guard line, wearing number 9 at 6'6" from Miami of Ohio, Ron Harper. And at guard, wearing number 23 at 6'6" from North Carolina, Michael Jordan. The Bulls are coached by Phil Jackson. Gentlemen, introducing our Utah Jazz. Starting at forward, wearing number 32 at 6'9" from Louisiana Tech, the mailman, Carmelo. Starting forward, number 3 at 6'7" from Long Beach State, Dwayne Brand Russell. The starting center, wearing 00 at 7'2" from Kansas, Greg Ostertag. On the guard line, wearing number 12 at 6'1" from Gonzaga, John Stockton. And at guard, wearing number 14 at 6'4" from Iowa State, Jeff Hornacek. The Jazz are coached by Jerry Sloan.
I must say it is one of the more remarkable scenes in all of sports, the introductions here at the Delta Center in Salt Lake City.
Marv, for the Utah Jazz, they've got to be the physical aggressors. Forget about respect for the Bulls. You got to develop a dislike for Malone every time. Make Dennis Rodman even more irrelevant than he's been to date.
And Chicago has to regain the defensive aggressiveness that they had in Game 2. Of course, that was back at the United Center in Chicago. They had it for parts of Game 4, especially Game 3 in the fourth quarter, but they have to do it early here to get this game under control.
Well, the Chicago Bulls have dropped the last 3 straight games on the road in NBA Finals play. Michael Jordan talked earlier about the fact that they've got to take this crowd out early. The Bulls want to get off to the fast start. The officials pick the better at T-Rush, Joe Forte, as we close in on the start of Game 4 of this best of 7 NBA Finals Series, the Bulls up 2-1. Michael Jordan coming off a 9 for 22, 26-point game the other night. Utah has won 22 straight here at home. They are 9-0 at home in the playoffs. Greg Ostertag and Luke Longley controlled by the Jazz. Russell played by Pippen. Hornacek guarded by Jordan. Stockton gives it to Malone, who fires the first shot. And rebounded by Russell.
Well, right away, Utah going to what they're calling their little motion offense. A little bit of a departure for them.
And here's a three-point attempt by Russell. The rebound is snatched by Harper, who is playing hurt. Injured his shoulder the other day, just prior to fouling out.
And the guards for Chicago, and that includes Scottie Pippen along with Jordan and Harper, have to do a good job on the boards. Harper did have 7 rebounds in Game 3.
And Harper challenged Ostertag, and he drew the foul.
Different style for the opening moments of this game. Utah staying on the perimeter. Chicago going, attacking the hoop. Phil Jackson enjoying what I thought was a lucky break for the Bulls there. Ostertag in good position. Bailout call.
A lot of times the Chicago Bulls, after a second-made free throw, like to get into their full-court press. And they're just going to see how Utah would attack it, just get after people.
Ron Harper, very strong in the first 2 games at Chicago. It's really been a home court series so far, particularly for the role players in the 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 positions.
So the Bulls with the 1-0 lead. John Stockton who turned it around here on Friday night in Game 3. Greg Ostertag. And Stockton looks to reset.
Everything on the perimeter. Get to the hoop.
Malone. So Karl Malone has missed on his first 2 field goal attempts. Longley.
Beautiful feed by Michael Jordan as the Utah defense fell asleep in transition. Jordan had Ostertag, I should say Longley, in his sights all the way.
Utah has missed its first 3 shots. Hornacek. Jeff Hornacek, who had the worst game of this season on Friday night, only 1 for 9. Able to hit on his first attempt. Bulls 3 and the Jazz 2. Jordan backing Russell and hitting.
He can still elevate, he can still fade, even over the taller Brian Russell. Even though Hornacek did not shoot the ball well in the last game, Jerry Sloan was very complimentary, played 39 minutes because he was able to space the floor. The first 2 games, identical 5 for 9s from the field, shooting good free throws, and just that 1 for 9, but you don't always have to be scoring to help your ball club.
Here's Malone.
That's become a rhythm shot. Almost automatic in the sense of Olajuwon's Rodman, a wild 3-point shot. The Jazz on the break.
Phil Jackson whipped his neck around, glaring at Dennis Rodman. Couldn't believe the shot.
Get the ball into Malone and let him work his way to the basket. Take Rodman out of the game.
Hornacek. You recall in Game 3, Rodman attempted only 1 shot. It was late in the game, and it was also a wild 3-pointer. Bulls 5, the Jazz 4.
Here's that post up that Chicago trying to take advantage of.
And the foul against the Jazz. Off the double team, Pippen was able to find Longley, and Malone picks it up. That's his first.
Well, a good read by Scottie Pippen on the double team coming with the Greg Ostertag, and Luke Longley did a nice job of following that defensive man right to the open spot underneath. Good feed. Luke Longley's got to finish that play off much, much stronger. He's got to dunk that ball.
Luke Longley in his 6th season out of the New Mexico, native of Melbourne, Australia. Very familiar with this area because the University of New Mexico made many college appearances here in Utah. Earlier this season, missed 18 games with a separated shoulder. Bulls take a 6-4 advantage. We have played 3 minutes.
It's very early, Marv, but Chicago has got the better game plan so far. Utah too much on the perimeter.
Ostertag with the save. He was thinking of calling a timeout and then realized that he had the balance in bounds. They double up on Stockton. Open shot for Malone.
Ron Harper, I think, can keep John Stockton under control. Rodman helping out way too much. Karl Malone's not going to miss that shot in this building.
The game is tied at 6. Here's Jordan slipping it over to Pippen. Open shot for Jordan. So Michael Jordan has hit on his first 2, and it's the Bulls with a 2-point lead. Malone getting possession.
Beautiful timing that time between Stockton and Malone as Karl Malone, when he catches it 2 feet in the paint, absolutely nothing you could do as Dennis Rodman trailing behind Portland.
Jordan, Longley with the follow too strong. And a foul. Joe Forte indicating a loose ball affair on Utah. It's called on Stockton.
Karl Malone getting the wide open shot after the inadvertent double team there by Dennis Rodman. And then moving without the ball, Stockton able to just deliver the ball. No pressure defensively by Ron Harper there. The Jazz, though, not taking advantage, not controlling their own defensive backcourt. That's a killer against these Bulls.
Here's the double on Pippen, who immediately found the open man. Jordan. Hornacek with the hustle to get that rebound and then hand it off. Single coverage on Malone. And fouled by Rodman.
Dennis Rodman that time seemed to have Karl Malone under control. No double team coming. And then on the fadeaway shot, a very poor decision. Just slaps him right on the forearm here. Right above the elbow. And all you have to do is go up with a hand up. If Karl Malone's going to make fadeaway jumpers, so be it. You want him to take that shot. You want him on the perimeter. You don't want him powering to the basket.
And Karl Malone, who picked up the free throw shooting the other night, 7 of 10, not able to hit on his first here.
You look at Karl Malone in the paint throughout this series, getting stronger and stronger. The attempts are so critical there. With a lot of attempts down low, the numbers will be huge for Karl, the MVP.
And a big part of that in Game 3, that he was catching the ball up around the top of the key area, but had a mindset to drive it to the basket. The Bulls' big defenders was too slow to stay with him.
Utah by 1. Malone has 7 points. Chant of defense from the crowd here on Stockton. Nearly picked it off. Jordan trying to post. Going against the 6'7" Russell. Goes to the fadeaway and changed his mind. Harper for 3. Russell rebound.
Russell playing very good, solid, disciplined defense on Jordan in the low post. What a pass.
Oh, beautiful pass. Malone to Stockton who went back door. And the Jazz leading by 3.
Every game so far, Utah has gotten that particular play, the give and go, easy basket.
Terrible defense, but Longley can't hold on to it.
Here's Rodman. Went to the left hand with the wild shot. The block by Ostertag, but Harper able to hang in. It's the Jazz 11 and the Bulls 10. This crowd has been screaming from the opening tip. 6:15 remaining.
What?
In the first quarter. Goodwill. Ostertag. And last touch by Longley. Timeout Timeout is being taken with 6 minutes to go in this first quarter.
Well, every time the ball goes into the post, it's some kind of split or some kind of backcourt cut. Perfect pass to John Stockton. Pick and roll, such a big part of the Utah offense. Jeff Hornacek going to be forced to the baseline by Michael Jordan. And the Bulls had a great deal of success in the first 2 games in Chicago of taking Utah out of this side pick and roll. Utah scrambling here, really getting nothing, forced to take a challenge shot, and Chicago controlling. They did have a reasonable amount of success with the high pick and roll in the first 2 games. Able to spread the floor, Chicago unable to influence in any one particular way. Penetration by Howard Eisley and a high percentage shot. In game 3, the side pick and roll improved again because of the alignment of Utah, putting all their people on the other side of the floor, and the high pick and roll wasn't successful, so the chess match continues.
But it's been all Karl Malone here. 7 points for the MVP. Dennis Rodman still nothing. Not a point, not a rebound.
And they're looking passive. There's still no signs of the kind of energy you would expect from Rodman.
Marv, I think he's consciously trying to behave himself and play for a contract for next season, and that's killing himself and his own team.
Hornacek felt the contact, and Rodman on the box out. Chicago has missed 6 of its last 7 shots. Jazz up by 1. 5.5 remaining in this first quarter. Marv Albert, Matt Dukas, Bill Walton, Ahmad Rashad, Jim Gray from Salt Lake City. Wrongly lost it.
Numbers for Utah. Take advantage.
Open shot for Russell for 3.
Well, first of all, a good defensive job there by Scottie Pippen to take Hornacek off what looked like an open shot, and a good ball faking by Hornacek got Russell that great look. Nobody near him.
Hopper at first trying to post up Stockton. Sloppy passing by the Bulls here at the start. Now Jordan one-on-one with Russell, and put on the move to set up the fadeaway. Just did beat the 24-second buzzer.
Even though Michael Jordan has taken a couple perimeter shots, you can see his mindset is different for this game. More post-up thinking and more taken to the basket ideas.
6 points for Jordan. Oh, the crowd wants below to go right at Rodman. Again, a beautiful pass, and it led to the foul. Ostertag will go to the line.
A shot clock winding down for Michael. He realizes it, knows he's going to have to force something up, but able to back Russell in and create just enough airspace to get that jump shot off.
Man, there's nothing anyone can do defensively about that. Russell played him as well as you could. The biggest thing there is don't get frustrated when he makes plays like that. Howard Eisley now in the lineup, replacing Stockton. Ostertag has to get more efficient and productive on the offensive end. He's wide open, or Sloan will come with Foster immediately.
Greg Ostertag on the line for the first time.
Ostertag very strong against Akeem. Now can't get anything done against Luke Longley. Very surprising for Ostertag.
Ostertag invisible in the first half in game number 3, and then came on, did some good things, particularly physically, in the second half. Misses on the 2 free throws. The Bulls lead 12-11 as we come up on 4 minutes to go in this first quarter, as Randy Brown has just checked in, and again, miscommunication, but it is last touch by the Jazz.
Well, different thinking on the part of Coach Phil Jackson, coming with Randy Brown, a good defensive player, instead of Steve Kerr for offense, realizing that Eisley hurt him in the previous games.
Howard Eisley has played very well, and as you mentioned, Bill, he's come on for John Stockton. Eisley comes on the double team. Shot clock is down to 2, and Jordan is tripped up.
Well, the Jazz don't have that edge, that spark yet. Obviously, we're just underway here. Big start for Jordan and Malone. Scottie Pippen has yet to take a shot.
And it's a travel on Pippen. So the ball back to Utah. This is Howard Eisley, three-year man from Boston College, who has had an outstanding series, being guarded by the good defender Randy Brown. Eisley trying to turn him around. Russell for three. Rebounded by Ostertag. Ostertag is fouled.
Terrific board work by Utah. They've gone away from Karl Malone in the post. The way he's playing, Karl should touch the ball every single time. Offensive rebounding off the brick by Brian Russell. Chicago just pushed way underneath the backboard. Looked like he was going to kick it out. Said, hey, I'll be like AC Green, just throw up whatever.
And Dennis Rodman picking up his second personal foul. Michael Jordan getting more and more frustrated with Luke Longley. First of all, his inability to handle and catch some balls, being in the wrong places sometimes on offense, and defensively not alert. Luke is flat-footed right now.
Ostertag is 67% free throw shooter. Now Utah shot well at the line in game 3, 26 of 30 overall. You'll recall Malone missed 2 early, and after that they hit 26 of 28. So with 3.5 remaining in this opening quarter, the game tied at 12. Pippen dumping it to Rodman. And rebounded by Russell. Now Jordan picking up Hornacek.
Finally to Malone in low. What a pass.
Ostertag lost the grip.
Where is Greg Foster?
Well, Greg Foster, one of the heroes of game 3. And he will be greeted with a deafening response when he comes on. Rodman. Dennis Rodman with his second attempt from the perimeter.
He's totally out of sync. He's trying to make his contribution as a scorer. That's not his game. He's got to defend, get to loose balls, get on the offensive glass, and rebound.
Illegal defense, the call for the first time on the Bulls, and a timeout taken with 2:38 left. In this first quarter, the Jazz and the Bulls tied at 12.
Well, Scottie Pippen double team. Rodman went to the right place, but not enough lift to finish the shot, and then just forcing an ill-advised shot there.
So low scoring first quarter. Back with more in a moment. There he is, Steve Jones. They call him Cyber Snapper, a close personal friend of Bill Walton's, although Bill says let's not get that crazy. Tonight and throughout the NBA Finals, Steve will be analyzing the games live online on NBCSports.com. He'll answer any questions that you have about the game or the series while providing pre- and post-game analysis. Plus, after the game, you can listen into the post-game press conferences online. That's all on NBCSports.com during the NBA Finals. They mentioned the low-scoring first quarter, which is even at 12. Chicago just 5 of 14. Utah 5 of 15 from the field. Let's check in with Ahmad Rashad. Ahmad?
All right, Marv, I was talking to Michael Jordan about the last game. He said that he was really trying to pace himself, both mentally and physically during the game. But this particular game, you can see he is not doing that at all. He's animated and going right at it right from the start. One other note, Dennis Rodman has just gone to the locker room, and I understand he has an upset stomach, and I'll keep you posted on it, Marv.
All right, thanks, Ahmad. Foul is called on Brown. Here's Dennis Rodman heading back to the locker room moments ago, as Ahmad just mentioned. And we'll have a report as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Howard Eisley to the free throw line. Both teams with their 4th team foul. Greg Foster has checked in for the first time, and he heard it from the crowd. Foster, who equaled a career high with 17 points here on Friday night. He had been very quiet first 2 games of the series.
Ostertag not able to deliver offensively. Guard, I've never seen Karl Malone pass the ball better or sharper. They've got to keep dumping it into him, but Brian Russell, who has yet to score in 4 attempts, he's got to find the range from the perimeter.
Longley off the setup from Jordan to tie the game at 14.
Phil Jackson called that play from the bench during the free throw situation, and the Bulls can exploit the weak pick-and-roll defense of Utah. They just don't do it that often.
Hornacek got a quick release. Quick release by Hornacek. Doing it against Jordan. And the Jazz up by 2. And here's Jordan. Crowd wanted to travel. No call made as he tied the game.
Well, he covered a lot of territory there. Everybody in the stands giving the traveling signal. But I thought Michael held that right foot, the pivot foot, and held it strong and just elongated himself into the shot.
Hornacek with the fake on Jordan to set it up. And Jeff Hornacek has come roaring back from the 1 for 9 the other night. He now has 6 points. Jazz by 2, and the pace has picked up as we approach 1 minute left in this first quarter.
Pippen in the paint, they quickly double.
Here comes Isley. But the Bulls got back. And Jerry Sloan said, pull it back. Well, Greg Foster had a notion.
Randy Brown's really doing a solid job on Isley early.
And Brown with the block of Isley.
Well, Phil Jackson's mindset in this first quarter is defense, coming with Randy Brown first and Caffey instead of Kukoc.
And the other factors we mentioned earlier, Harper is playing with an injured shoulder, played only briefly in the early going. Jordan fired that 3. Foster on the rebound. 25 seconds left. First quarter.
Dump it into Karl Malone. Let him get to the hoop. The crowd can finish on an upbeat.
Malone is being guarded now by Jason Caffey. Down to 3 on the shot clock. Malone gives it up. Hornacek with the hot hand. It's a 3 for Hornacek. Final seconds of the quarter. The Jazz up by 5. Quarter complete. Here in Salt Lake City, the Utah Jazz 21, the Chicago Bulls 16. You are watching the NBA on NBC.
Jeff Hornacek, the consummate team player, comes out on fire along with Karl Malone to lead the way. But Jeff is the kind of guy that moves beautifully without the ball. He's got the lightning quickly, and this is a shot that he makes regularly. But his game is coming off screens and delivering. And you see the fine performance in Chicago. This is not a team that gets hung up on statistics. He'll just keep playing, keep rolling. Tonight he's got the hot hand. Utah will find a way to milk him. Jeff on the bench for a well-deserved rest.
And on that last field goal by Jeff Hornacek, actually Karl Malone had an open jumper, but realized that Hornacek has the hot hand. Karl not trying to force anything, playing the game as it should be.
Second quarter underway. Phil Jackson with some changes. Steve Kerr, who was hitting the shot the other night, checked in along with Brian Williams, who was so effective off the bench. It gets right to it. So that ends the 5-0 run by the Jazz. They now lead by 3.
Phil Jackson coming now with a more offensive-minded group while Michael Jordan rests on the bench.
Great post-entry pass, Stockton.
Brian Williams now guarding Karl Malone, and the shot waved off. Foul away from the ball as Stockton hit the deck with Kerr.
The big four, the future Hall of Famers, Malone, Stockton, Pippen, and Jordan. Tremendous, really unbelievable career statistics and accomplishments. Dream teamers.
Foul is called on Kerr. We're opening minute, second quarter. Nice fake by Stockton that had Kerr going. That won't count. Offensive foul. Karl Malone is called for his second personal.
This is a terrible call. Karl Malone is already in the air, taking his move. Picks up his second foul, and everybody's standing underneath the basket, flopping, taking charges.
And that the only turnover in this first half committed by Utah. Offensive foul is a turnover.
Chicago gonna want to go to a pick and roll here, but nobody came to get Scottie Pippen, as Brian Williams' job is to go over and set that pick. Fell asleep.
And the foul called on Foster. Look at the big four thus far tonight. Karl Malone got off to that fast start. What about Scottie Pippen? Only one field goal attempt. Still playing hurt. bothered by the foot injury. Went to the outside successfully in the second half the other night and finished up with 7 3-point shots. But we'll have to see how mobile Scottie Pippen is. Well, here's an example of it as he goes to the fadeaway. And a loose ball foul against the Bulls. Foul on Kukoc.
Well, the Bulls are pushing and shoving and getting their way to the offensive glass. I'm really surprised Scottie has just not been a monster in the offensive end in the low post.
Well, nothing is going smoothly at the offensive end for Chicago. Everything is a struggle, and you have to give a lot of that credit to the Jazz defense.
Stockton unable to get open for his own shot here.
Antoine Carr, Chris Morrison checked in for the first time. Stockton. The Jazz 23 and the Bulls 18. Ahmad Rashad reporting that apparently Dennis Rodman did suffer an upset stomach, but he will be all right as Steve Kerr is able to knock it down. And Dennis Rodman will be available to make his return.
And he's back on the bench right now. Easy to spot him with that beautiful red hair.
3-point Jazz lead. Stockton. Pippen with the rebound.
Mark Foster's not having the impact that he had in Game 3. Out of rhythm. Uh-oh, Scottie Pippen got John Stockton.
The lazy pass by Ron Harper. He's got to take more time and care and make a better feed than that.
Nice ball movement.
Antoine Carr had a minor incident on the bench with Jerry Sloan back in Game 3. Kukoc, he thought he was fouled. No call made.
The Chicago offense is absolutely out of it right now. They got to get Michael Jordan back on the floor to restore some kind of order and start getting better shots.
Scottie is standing there like his feet are killing him.
Carr facing the double team, setting it up for Russell for 3. And Pippen off the box out. And Dick Pavetta with the call on Chris Morris, tripping foul. Timeout taken, 8 minutes, 54 seconds to go, first half. Well, aerial view shots of Salt Lake City tonight coming from the Miller Eagle as we welcome you back to the Della Center. Let's check in with Jim Gray. Jim?
All right, thank you, Marv. Jerry Sloan during that timeout told all of his guys, he pointed in each one of their chests. He says, you've got to hit the boards and you've got to box them out every trip down the court. The only one who was excluded was John Stockton. He says, offensively, better shots. You can't do everything at once on the offensive end. Marv?
All right, thanks, Jim. Jerry Sloan was so upset with his club following that poor performance back in Game 2. He was seething, saying that they lost their will against the Chicago Bulls, and they were certainly able to turn it around in Game 3. Scottie Pippen getting the roll. That's his first field goal. It's the Jazz 23 and the Bulls 22.
Well, the Bulls have been going into Scottie Pippen quite a bit. 8 times so far in post-up situations. They've only scored once.
Michael Jordan is back. Here's Carr. Antoine Carr played well, but was able to hit on the pull-up.
It's a critical juncture here for Utah. The second unit plus Stockton. They've got to find a rhythm. They've got to find a guy who can put some points on the board. Antoine Carr that time.
Well, the one play they can go to every time is to pick and roll with Stockton. Steve Kerr having all kinds of difficulty.
Michael Jordan off the mark on the 3, but Kukoc is able to take it away from Foster. Nice pass from Kerr, setting it up for Williams.
Greg Foster and the Jazz, they have got to hold on to those defensive rebounds. Chicago with a couple of rebound edge early in the second quarter.
Pippen broke it up. Alert defensive play. Pippen chased by Stockton, able to beat him, protected the dribble, and then was able to knock it down to give the Bulls a 1-point lead, and Jerry Sloan wants to talk it over. 7:19 left in the second quarter. The Bulls with a good spurt. They've taken a 1-point lead. Well, the Bulls have picked it up here in the second quarter. They've hit 5 of 8. They've outscored the Jazz. 10-4. We have 7:19 left in the first half, and the Bulls with a 26-25 lead. Karl Malone got off to the early burst, but has been quiet since those moments.
Well, he's been out. That's why Jerry Sloan took that timeout, according to Jim Gray. Nothing really wrong, just trying to get some guys back in the game. They got to find something out of their small forwards. Brian Russell 0 for 5 on the night.
Along with Morris and Ostertag, who's returned. Stockton and Hornacek in the backcourt. Stockton forced to work hard by Kerr. Ostertag with a shot clock running down.
Mismatch inside. John Stockton recognized it. He just couldn't figure out exactly how he wanted to go in. So Ostertag, he just drove in the lane, drew some defense, and Ostertag finally making a good move inside over Kukoc.
Ostertag with his first field goal. It's the Jazz by 1. Here's Brian Williams. Look out, Ostertag and Williams becoming entangled, but nothing serious develops.
Ostertag finally gets an opportunity against the guy he can score at will on. Tony Kukoc, of course, playing with a very sore foot, but still not ever a defensive force.
Foul was called on Ostertag.
But the Jazz are not doing a good job of beating the Bulls across the lane defensively.
Here's Pippen.
Now that's a rebound.
Oh, he ripped it down to Karl Malone.
Chicago dominating the points in the paint.
Well, in traffic, Karl Malone getting high up in the air for his third rebound with Brian Williams challenging. And then what he does is sprint the floor hard, and that picks up the tempo for his whole team. And by sprinting, gets excellent position with Williams on top for the easy one.
That was a non-shooting foul on Brian Williams. The basket did not count. Now here is Malone. Well, Karl Malone is now 3 of 7 from the field. Chicago down by 1 with the ball. 6 minutes left in the first half. The lead for Pippen went too deep. He had to save it. Kukoc. Yes. Tony Kukoc hits the 3. He's beginning to hit his shot. Still not himself because of the foot injury. But Phil Jackson telling us earlier he has liked what he's seen the last couple of games from Kukoc.
It all starts with your feet, Marv. Unless you can practice at full speed every day, everything is going to be luck. As Steve Kerr, great steal, irritates tough.
Brian Williams with the finisher. John Stockton felt that he was fouled.
And made the mistake of arguing with the official while running back on defense. Kerr had his head up, and a good sprint by Brian Williams to get an easy basket. The Chicago Bulls have changed their philosophy on defense on the side pick and roll. They haven't been forcing it down, trying to fight over the pick.
Bulls with a 4-point lead as we come up on 5 minutes left. This first half, Jeff Hornacek has been on fire. 5 of 7 from the field. He has 11. The Bulls by 2. Here's Coach again. Tony Kukoc with his second consecutive 3. It's Chicago 34 and Utah 29.
Well, the Bulls had to go all season long with all kinds of injury problems. Hard to imagine that they could beat a good team on the road like Utah without something from Kukoc or something from Rodman. So far, absolutely zilch from Dennis Rodman.
Utah has called for time.
Chicago pushing the ball after Hornacek's jumper. And then Stockton just ran away from a man with the ball. John Stockton, this is not his greatest afternoon of basketball. Tony Kukoc, though, you see his declining playoff numbers. Peaked there in '95. That was the year Jordan was playing baseball. Last year, not that much of a factor. And then this year plagued miserably by that sore foot. You'd have to feel badly for Tony Kukoc. He's a much better player than he's shown.
And it's not always statistics with Tony Kukoc. He does so many other things at the offensive end as far as helping out with the ball handling, giving Jordan and Pippen a rest, getting second-unit players good shots. But he does struggle defensively.
And the Bulls with a very strong second quarter. They have outscored the Jazz 18-8. This is their biggest lead, a margin of 5, just under 5 minutes remaining in the first half. Foster flashing down low against Pippen and then moved back outside. Stockton using the pick from Malone. John Stockton with his third field goal. He has 6 points. Bulls 34, the Jazz 31.
No impact from Stockton. The numbers are starting to build up, but certainly no impact from the small forward position for Utah.
Foster with the play to take it away from Kukoc, and a foul called. It won't count. Well, it was a shot, but it was waved off. The trailing official, Dick Pivetta, blowing the whistle and indicating a holding foul against Chicago.
Kukoc in the low post. Foster stays down. Kukoc just lost the ball. Nothing there. And then they took this basket away. A half-court heave.
Oh, Brian Williams was called on the foul. That amused Phil Jackson somewhat. He has reinserted Dennis Rodman, as reported earlier. Dennis went back to the locker room suffering with an upset stomach, also suffering playing Karl Malone defensively.
I'd come right to Karl here and establish it.
Foster. And as Foster made his move, offensive foul. Greg Foster trying to force the issue, picks up his second.
Well, Greg Foster didn't think he charged. He felt he got rid of the ball in time. Jerry Sloan wasn't really sure. Let's take a look. Oh, that's a horrible call, as there was really no contact. Shouldn't have been an offensive foul.
Utah's really got the short end of the stick a couple of times right underneath the basket. Chicago's got the offensive rhythm as of now.
Looking ahead, coming up at halftime, the Prudential halftime report. We'll hear from Michael Jordan on his future and the future of the Chicago Bulls. Michael spoke to us shortly before tonight's game. Hannah Storm will be joined by the Dr. Julius Irving, Peter Vesey, the czar of the telestrator, Mike Fratello. That's all coming up on the Prudential halftime report. Let's check in with Jim Gray. Jim?
All right, Marv, the last couple of timeouts. First, the 22nd timeout. Tony Kukoc hit those 2 threes in a row. Greg Foster was inserted in the game, didn't know who his man was, so he wanted to make sure he knew his assignment. This timeout, he told the Jazz, play through the officials, keep your composure, but continue to be aggressive. Marv?
It turns out, though, Marv, that his man was Tony Kukoc, which is why Jerry Sloan had to have that timeout.
Yes, Kukoc hit the consecutive threes. Here's Kerr from 3.
Great closeout defense by Stockton, forced a missed delivery by Kerr.
And a very quiet second quarter for Jordan. 4 minutes, taking only 1 shot, 0 for 1 from the field. Karl Malone backing Dennis Rodman. Shot clock at 5. Malone, an air ball.
Steve Kerr did a nice job of coming down just at the right time to double Malone and take him out of the post.
Rodman at the post. Pippen. Jordan open. Rebound, Pippen. Scottie Pippen on a putback. That foot looking much better.
Complete breakdown defensively by Chicago. You've got to get up. If you're going to leave a guy wide open for a jumper, Jordan, whoever, you've got to get the weak side defensive board.
And Malone lost it. Good play by Rodman. Here comes Jordan. And decides to regroup. Bulls lead 36-31 with 2.5 to go in the first half. Kerr for 3. Now Stockton checking out the floor as Malone took possession. This time they went to the double on Malone. Now single coverage. And the foul, it's a block. Rodman was looking to draw the charge, and Dick Pivetta said no way.
Well, actually, Dennis Rodman does a good job here. Maybe the first positive thing that he did all night by screening out a couple of white shirts to enable Pippen to get that shot. But now, Dennis Rodman in a lot of trouble with 2 personal fouls, stuck one-on-one, trying to flop and take that charge at Karl Malone. Instead, picks up his 3rd.
So Karl Malone, now 2 of 3 at the line. Join us Wednesday, prime time, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific for the Bulls and the Jazz. And game number 5, Michael Jordan and his Chicago Bulls going up against Karl Malone, John Stockton of the Jazz. Again, right here at the very tough Delta Center, Salt Lake City. Wednesday, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 in the West, right here on NBC. 2 minutes, 11 seconds left in this first half. And it's the Bulls 36 and the Jazz 33. It's been close throughout. Remember, we've had 16-point leads at halftime in games 2 and 3. Not the case here tonight. Jordan trying to brush off Stockton, and he did.
Well, this first half is more reminiscent of Game 1, which was low scoring, but 48-42. That's a lot of scoring compared to this with 1:40 to go in the first half.
Well, nobody's playing well for Utah with the exception of Carl, the NBA. What a pass again. Hornacek can't find it.
And Tony Kukoc has been a major factor in the second quarter. Scottie Pippen, beautiful lead. Luke Longley puts it down. And the Bulls have the biggest lead of the night. They're up by 7.
The Jazz defense does not deny penetration. They keep going for those pump fakes. They have no chance to win this critical game as Luke Longley throws Hornacek out of the way.
Crowd was looking for a foul as Hornacek and Longley came together. Shot clock at 3. Here's Foster. Nice ball, quick to the left hand.
A terrific adjustment by Greg Foster, who was off balance, didn't really have a good handle on it, but able to just regroup at the last second to put it up and in.
Down to 45 seconds in this first half. Kukoc wide open for the 3. Longley on the box out. No one in front of him. And it leads to the foul.
Marv, we saw this last year with Seattle, who could not stop Chicago on the offensive glass. But here Jordan just burns the much shorter Stockton John with no chance defensively. And then Scottie Pippen with the ball fake. Guys running by. Once you penetrate Chicago, there is no way you're going to keep them from scoring. You got to make them take and miss perimeter jumpers.
And Foster was called for the foul to put Longley at the line. That's 3 on Foster. Longley now 1 of 3 at the line.
Well, in the opening minutes of the first quarter, both Pippen and Jordan were penetrating, but Luke Longley wasn't getting to the right spot, and when he was mishandling the ball. Michael Jordan jumped on him midway through that first quarter. I think Luke has at least responded mentally into this game. He's more alert.
Adam Keefe checked in. You see Greg Foster sitting down after picking up a third. Keefe played 10 minutes the other night.
Well, remember when Michael was talking about the good start and playing well early to keep the crowd out of it? The Bulls have succeeded in that.
Bulls have a 5-point lead. Stockton guarded now by Hopper. Hornacek for 3. And it's Kukoc with the rebound.
Great defense. Jordan staying right with the quick release jump shooter Hornacek.
And the Bulls are holding for a final shot of this first half. Setting it up, you see him directing traffic. Just about a 2.5 differential with the game clock. Out of 5 seconds. Jordan for 3. Rebound Carr. Here's Russell firing. Rimming the basket from beyond midcourt. But the Bulls outscore the Jazz in the second quarter, 24-14 for a 5-point lead at the half. Jeff Hornacek leading Utah with 11. Michael Jordan, high man for Chicago with 10. We'll join Hannah for the Prudential halftime report right after these messages.
Ahmad Rashad back at the Delta Center here in Salt Lake. And at halftime, Phil Jackson happy about a lot of things, including the score at halftime. Said he was very happy about their intensity, happy about their defense. The things he was upset about was they still had bad execution on their offense, settling for too many outside shots. So they need to work the ball inside and make their cuts, and they'll be all right. Let's go down to Jim Gray.
All right, thanks, Ahmad. Jerry Sloan not too happy, very unhappy that the Jazz was unable to stop the Bulls' fast break. 11 fast break points. He said also the Bulls are playing much better defensively tonight, so he says we must execute our offense much better. We need more energy. Their energy level is much higher than us. It must come with more intensity, and we've got to hit the boards. If we don't hit the boards, Marv, we're not going to win.
All right, thanks, Jim. Yes, certainly a different situation in terms of energy level from what took place here on Friday night. Look at the big four. Karl Malone did most of the scoring early. John Stockton just 6 points. Michael Jordan maybe preserving the energy. Told us that earlier prior to the game. And Scottie Pippen, 3 of 6, 6 points, but showed some signs in the second quarter.
Even though the Bulls struggled with their execution at the offensive end, they have to be very happy that they have controlled the tempo. Only 35 points for the Jazz. You'll remember Game 3, 104 points for Utah. They've been averaging 103 throughout the playoffs at home.
And they had 61 points Utah did at halftime in Game 3. This game, this is Karl Malone time. MVP every time. Go to the hoop. Forget the fadeaway. Points in the paint. Dominant from Game 3. A complete reversal here tonight in number 4.
Third quarter underway, and Chicago in possession with Harper and Jordan in the backcourt. Rodman, Longley, Pippen up front. Here's Jordan. And the rebound handled by Stockton. Alone on the run. He missed him. Stockton picked up by Jordan. Stockton and Hornacek at the guards. Russell, Ostertag, and Malone on the front line. Rodman opening against Malone. Shot clock at 5. Malone with the room. And Rodman handles the rebound.
No offensive rebounds for Utah. And Karl Malone on the perimeter. He's got to pound his way to the hoop. And consequently to the foul line as well.
And the big difference is now with Rodman on Malone, you have Longley with a specific job. Keep Ostertag off the glass.
Pippen thought he had Longley cutting, but Stockton was able to step in his way.
Brian Russell 0 for 6 on the night.
Stockton, 8 points to John Stockton. It's a 3-point Chicago lead, and Phil Jackson upset with a very quick 20-second timeout.
The defensive strategy, they've got to keep John Stockton under control. Chicago does. You let him get a rhythm, a step, and he'll just continue to kill you and punish you. And the ball goes into Karl Malone, who's passing brilliantly tonight. The screen, Harper, very lazy to fight through. And John Stockton, last season in the playoffs, very difficult. Taken out by Gary Payton in Seattle. This year, much, much better.
And also, John was playing with some injuries. Of course, he's the type of guy that will never complain that he was not at 100% during the whole postseason last year.
Scottie Pippen. Karl Malone with the rebound.
But Chicago has not been able to capitalize on Scottie down low against Hornacek.
Ostertag saving the pass. One of those rare off-the-mark passes by Stockton, but Greg Ostertag reaching out to handle it and then scoring to bring the Jazz within 1.
Terrific defense, Utah. Stepped on the line.
Luke Longley angling for possession, stepped on the baseline.
And this crowd starting to become a factor. They weren't really there in the first half. Of course, the Jazz didn't give them anything to get excited about, starting to get behind their team.
Hornacek had the hot hand in the first half. Malone, Stockton for 3, yes! The Jazz with a 42-40 lead.
All set up by a terrific screen by Jeff Hornacek.
7-0 run by Utah. Here's the double on Jordan. Shot clock at 5. Jordan to the left hand. Jordan with the rebound. The tip handled by Rodman.
The Bulls finally regroup with a good offensive rebound by Dennis Rodman and finally get their spacing to get a good-looking shot.
A Dropped out of bounds by Karl Malone, and for the first time tonight, he looks down at that hand. Stockton very upset. Russell and Karl Malone that time running the lanes on the same side of the floor. Very poor floor balance on the break for Utah.
Michael Jordan only one for his last 8. Jordan making 1 for his last 9.
Utah starting to find a rhythm on both backboards.
Malone.
Forget the fadeaway. Get to the hoop.
Karl Malone is now just 3 of 10 from the field. The game tied at 42. You can see the start by Michael Jordan, but since then, he's had his problems. Pippen fortunate to keep it alive. Longley, a facial served up by Luke Longley.
And Phil Jackson sensing his team is either fatigued, totally out of sync, coming with 2 offensive players now, Steve Kerr and Brian Williams.
Yes, both over at the scorer's table. Luke Longley has played well. He now has 11. Stockton. And Pippen with the rebound.
Scotty and Michael are running, but the rest of the Bulls are not.
Here comes Hornacek. He was cut off by Hopper. Malone. No call. Oh, Rodman reaching out for Malone, and he's hit with a technical foul. And no question about that call. Rodman was trying to draw the charge, and then in frustration while on the floor, he reached up to grab Malone and was hit with a technical.
Dennis Rodman tried this in the first half, just taking a bump and falling back. Didn't get the call then, didn't get the call now. But as Malone trying to get over, jump over, and what Dennis Rodman felt there was Karl Malone was coming right in the direction of his forehead.
I think Dennis was trying to protect his face. Now, he might have tried to trip him a little bit after he did save his face.
Yeah, that's the point that Rodman is making to the official, Ed Rush.
But Marv, when you have such a negative history as Dennis Rodman does, everything close is going to go against you.
Hornacek getting the technical for the 1 point. Jazz lead. Brian Williams has just checked back in, trying to hit the cutting Scottie Pippen, and it was deflected out, and then Pippen discussing that with Williams. But it will be Chicago ball. As you see, they have 10 on the 24.
Great back cut by Scottie. The hands are not sharp inside, not crisp for the Bulls set offense.
Steve Kerr for Scottie Pippen. Hornacek. Blocked by Pippen, but recovered. And here's Russell for 3. That was his first field goal. He had missed the previous 6. The Jazz up 48-44 with 6.5 remaining in the 3rd quarter.
And finally the crowd into it.
Phil Jackson trying to buy some time for Michael Jordan as Scottie Pippen hit. Jordan getting a rest. Pippen now has 8 points. 2-point Utah advantage. The Utah Jazz trying to tie the series in 2. Chicago hoping to go up 3 games to 1 with game number 5 here in Salt Lake City on Wednesday. Stockton putting the move on Kerr. Reaching for the rebound.
Oh, it took so long for Utah to get into that play. That post feed and split has been good to them.
Foul is called. Pippen on the drive, took the hit, and has some words with Ostertag. He did not like what he felt was a hard foul given up by Greg Ostertag, and from the Chicago Bulls point of view, that would be a very bad exchange if those two got involved and if both were ejected.
It was not a dirty play. It was just a good, hard rugged foul, physical foul that you would expect in the finals. Ostertag just walked away. Don't get involved in any sort of verbal confrontation.
Over at the scorer's table. Let's see if they're calling double technicals. No official word. Well, double technicals were handed out on Pippen and Ostertag. The timeout has also been granted with 5:42 left in this third quarter. The Jazz up by 2 points. Well, we'd like to thank the folks at Miller Brewing once again for these terrific aerial views on tonight's game being provided from the Miller Eagle airplane. The Eagle, the newest eye in the sky in sports television.
Don't forget, after game 2, a disappointing performance by Utah and a passive one. Jerry Sloan challenged his team to be more physical, take a foul and a hard one when it's called for, and a lot of staring there.
As the scuffle broke out, Michael Jordan on the bench resting holds the guys back and says, hey, no suspensions. Miami and New York had lots of trouble there. As Jason Caffey. Now Jason's been a solid contributor. If it had been a guy not doing it, just push him out in the court, get him out of there.
And Scottie Pippen goes to the line. Let's check in with Jim Gray. Jim.
Well, as Matty just said, Jerry Sloan's been wanting his team to step up and be more aggressive, take some hard fouls. So I asked Jerry Sloan over on the bench if Jerry Sloan, I didn't ask Jerry, I asked the coaching staff over there on the bench, was he happy with that type of a foul? He said, according to Jerry, that wasn't a hard foul. Mark?
All right, thanks, Jim. Dick Pavetta just went behind the basket that Scottie Pippen is shooting at, and apparently had one of the fans remove to be a large cutout of Dennis Rodman that was being waved, and apparently he felt was a bit too much interference on the free throw attempt of Scottie Pippen. Boy, that's one you never see. Karl Malone able to hit. He now has 13, and the Jazz up 50-47.
The Bulls keep mixing up their pick and roll defense. That time Steve Kerr forced it to the baseline. Howard Eisley, who's not playing a lot of minutes, read that nicely.
Eisley back for Stockton. Hopper for 3.
Great rebound, Brian Russell.
And here comes Eisley. Malone hit the deck in a collision with Williams. No foul call. Just under 5 minutes remaining in the third quarter. Eisley was looking for a pick, then went to the spin. And Hornacek tried to save it, could not.
Oh, Jeff Hornacek didn't have to. Actually, that ball was deflected by Steve Kerr, but Hornacek's angle, which was below free throw line extended, I don't think he saw. He definitely didn't see Kerr touch that ball.
Well, if Michael Jordan has not taken a free throw tonight, Scottie Pippen only 2 those last 2 attempts.
Hopper getting it over to Williams. Met by Ostertag. Hard driving move. And the ball was punched down court by one of the Utah Jazz, and they are saying, hey, why not a technical foul called on the Jazz? Ostertag picked up the personal foul, his 4th. Well, let's check in with Ahmad Rashad. Ahmad?
All right, thanks, Mark. Just moments ago, Dennis Rodman was the one that complained about a big cutout of himself underneath the basket that this fan was waving around. He told Dick Pavetta, and Dick Pavetta had the cutout removed and the fan gone also. Mark?
Those fans right underneath that basket, they are the greatest. Normally they bring saxophones and signs, trombones. They are so into it here.
Brian Williams making his first appearances at the foul line. We have 4.5 remaining third quarter. And it's Utah by 3 as they desperately try to get back into the series, hoping to tie it at 2. The Jazz up by 2 points.
It's the first game, Marv, that Eisley has not had a tremendously positive impact for Utah.
Phil Jackson saying earlier they had to do a better job on Howard Eisley, and they have. Here's Kerr with the steal. Pippen was trying to use the screen, and he does. Scottie Pippen with his first three-pointer of the night to give the Bulls a one-point lead. He had 7 in game number 3. That equal an NBA Finals record. He shares it now with Kenny Smith for the Houston Rockets. And the foul is called on Kerr.
Steve Kerr having to defend pick and roll on the side on the previous play. Isley did a good job of going to the open area, make the defense react. Steve Kerr, a better defensive job there. And then Scottie Pippen using that moving screen by Rodman very nicely to raise up for the 3.
Malone. And Jordan to the board.
Marv, everything for Karl Malone up around the free throw line. Brian Russell on the great steal against Jordan. Terrible pass.
So the Jazz gave it right back. They were trying to break 2-on-1 on Jordan. Rodman with a good pick. And a foul against Utah. Foul on Hornacek.
Well, you get so few running chances in the playoffs. You have to take advantage of them. As Brian Russell had a notion to take it right to the rim himself, and then got himself in trouble against some quick hands back there by Michael Jordan, who threw the first pass away.
What great lateral mobility defensively for Michael Jordan. Brian Russell, though, never set him up right to try to come back left with the behind the back.
And the call away from the ball on Isley for the Utah Jazz. That is team foul number 4. The Bulls with just 1. As we mentioned earlier, Jerry Sloan going with a shorter bench. The outstanding rookie Shandon Anderson is not with the club once again. His dad died of throat cancer the other day, and in Georgia he sat out game 3, also out tonight. Williams, yes, Ryan Williams with 9 points. The Bulls lead 53-50.
Chicago finally getting some good ball movement and good cuts to get a shot in rhythm.
Russell backing to three-point territory, but changed his mind. Chicago with 6 unanswered points. Williams playing Russell well.
No offense. They can't get it down deep to Karl Malone.
Shot clock at 3. Isley had a force. The shot clock running down, and Isley hit to cut it to a 1-point Chicago lead with 2:20 to go in the third quarter. Ryan Williams putting it Karl Malone, and he drew the foul. That is number 3 on Malone. Timeout taken. Back in a moment. You're watching the NBA on NBC. Well, to this point, the most valuable player and the MVP runner-up having their problems. Michael Jordan is 5 of 15. Has not scored at all in the second half. Karl Malone got off fast, but overall just 5 for 13.
Well, Michael Jordan 0 for 4, taking that jumper, falling backwards too much, although he likes that shot. Scottie Pippen has picked it up. 12 points in the game as he is starting to warm up. But Michael taking that fadeaway jumper while he was facing the basket, that's unusual, and then flipping the rudder. He's got to get more aggressive, taking the ball to the rim.
Both MVPs fading away. Neither one of them with enough shot opportunities. Just 13 and 14 shot attempts. These guys got to take 25 shots per game.
And Michael Jordan has missed 8 of his last 9. Ryan Williams has done a good job again. Came off the bench the other night, 27 minutes, 16 points, 6 rebounds. The back tap handled by Isley. Bulls 54 and the Jazz 52. Marv Albert, Matt Guokas, Bill Walton, Ahmad Rashad, Jim Gray from Salt Lake City, Utah. 9 fouls been called on Pippen. That is his first.
Marv, Chicago's doing a really good job of double teaming in the backcourt on Isley, taking him out of the play.
And the reason they could be so aggressive, they had a foul to give before the 2-minute mark. Good gamble by Scottie Pippen.
They can't even get the ball to Karl Malone in the post. How do they expect to win?
Kerr and Jordan in the backcourt with Williams, Pippen, and Kukoc up front. Chicago going with the smaller unit. Good pick by Williams. Then the pick and roll, but Williams could not convert.
For some unknown reason, Brian Williams tried to use his right hand there, the natural lefty. Maybe he couldn't get up there. He's got to finish that with a dunk with the left hand.
Isley, met by Kerr. Malone being played by Williams. Malone, yes. The game is tied at 54. Steve Kerr took a shot in the head away from the ball.
He's been playing an unusually physical game for Steve, but he is taking his licks as well.
Here's Pippen with the strap and the bucket, and the Bulls lead 56-54. Just under 1 minute remaining in the third quarter.
Utah's defense, Marv, a half step slow all night long.
And the foul. It's on Michael Jordan, so the next foul committed by Chicago puts them over the foul limit.
Come right back to Karl Malone in the post. You got to milk the hot hand. The championship is right here on the line.
Now Malone is being played by Kukoc up high. They double up on Isley. Kukoc reaching in. Did he tie him up? Yes, he did. Or no, foul is called. Reach-in foul on Kukoc. So the Bulls over the limit. Yes, and Phil Jackson thought it was a tie-up. Tony Kukoc pleading his case, but Howard Isley to the line. He's 2 for 2 at the free throw line. A reminder on NBC tonight, after this NBA Finals game, hope you stick around for Men Behaving Badly and Wings. That's must-see TV right after the game, all here on NBC tonight.
With 34.9 left in the third quarter, it's a 2-for-1 situation for Chicago, where you would like to get 2 shots to Utah's 1. See if Chicago tries it.
Bulls and Jazz tied at 56. All right, here's Pippen. On the box out.
Now that's a rebound. Malone right now every time.
They're on their feet at the Delta Center as the Jazz will look to set up for a final shot. Down to 10 seconds. Game tied at 56. Third quarter winding down. Down to 5. Isley. Rebounded by Pippen. Time runs out as Jordan pops it short. And we have played 3 quarters. It's the Utah Jazz 56. The Chicago Bulls 56. Michael Jordan to this point with a subpar performance. We'll be back here in Salt Lake City after these messages from your local station. You are watching the NBA on NBC. Welcome back to Salt Lake City. Look at that line score. How uncharacteristic. Chicago with a 16-point first quarter and a 16-point third quarter. Utah with a 14-point second quarter. Chicago and Utah tied at 56 as we head to the fourth. Let's check in first with Jim Gray.
All right, Marv. Jeff Hornacek just went back into the locker room, and now he's coming back out to the floor. He cut his lip, but his problem was with his lower leg. He hurt it. The doctors went back and checked it out. We'll find out whether or not he's going to return. Marv?
All right, thanks, Jim. And Jeff Hornacek has been an important player after the one for 9 the other night. He has 12 points. He's back on the bench. Question is, will he return to the game? Fourth quarter getting underway. Brian Williams defending on Karl Malone. John Stockton is back, played by Steve Kerr. Malone, yes. And the Jazz leading by 2.
Well, it was Brian Williams who had all kinds of problems with Karl Malone in the second quarter of Game 3. The Bulls sensing that, coming over to try to double team, but a good in, out, and back into Malone again.
Double up on Kerr, and it was last touched by the Jazz.
Marv, a good athletic combination now for Jerry Sloan and the Jazz with Brian Russell and Chris Morris. That should deny Scottie Pippen in the post a little bit.
Here's Kerr putting it away from Stockton, but could not hit. And Chris Morris handling the rebound. So it is Malone with Foster and Morris with Stockton and Russell. Oh, Malone tripped up. Malone backing, fading. Pippen with the rebound.
Chicago big men doing a good job on Karl, forcing him into the fadeaway. Karl might want to turn and face and give him a little bit of space to operate.
Kukoc with the screen. Kukoc for three. Tony Kukoc with his third three-pointer. He now has 9, and the Bulls are up by 1.
Utah's set play execution is getting very tight now. They're not getting the spacing that they certainly got in Game 3 or earlier in this one.
Stockton for three.
No offensive rebounds, effort, or position by the Utah Jazz.
Interesting matchup. Stockton is on Kukoc. Jordan now working Russell. Michael Jordan has not scored in the second half. Michael Jordan 5 for 16. We're told by Jim Gray that Jeff Hornacek injured his left knee, and he will be available to return.
This is one of the most durable and healthy teams in all of basketball, Mark, the Utah Jazz.
Malone. Utah recaptures the lead, up by 1.
The patience of John Stockton to keep working, make Steve Kerr work, and make Brian Williams help to get Karl Malone open.
19 for Malone, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. Jordan had it knocked away, recovered by Pippen, but a reach-in foul was called. Russell leaning in to bat the ball away, but committed his second foul. 9:20 remaining in the fourth quarter. Timeout has been called. It's the Jazz 60, the Bulls 59.
Miller Genuine Draft presents a classic moment of the NBA at 50.
Tonight we go back 11 years to the day. Rockets versus Celtics. Game 6 of the 1986 Finals. 32-year-old Robert Parrish finishing the fast break. And Parrish got some scoring help from a fellow by the name of Bill Walton. The Celtics defeating the Rockets 4 games to 2, taking a record 16th NBA title. In recognition of that classic moment, the Miller Brewing Company will donate $1,000 to the Thurgood Marshall Scholarship Fund. There's Robert Parrish several years later as a member of the Chicago Bulls.
Michael Jordan in the first quarter, 4 out of 7 from the field as he got off to a good start, not conserving energy as he said he felt like he was going to do in Game 3, but 1 for 9 since.
And Jordan with only 2 points since the first quarter, trying to get back into it, and he does.
Taking it to the rim, Michael Jordan, when he decides he wants to get there, he can, or he can draw contact.
In your face, Marv. You start dogging him like that, he's going to come down and throw one in your face.
Are you referring to me? Bulls lead 61-60. Russell with room for 3. Well, after missing his first 6, he's hit 2 3-pointers. And the Jazz up 63-61. Ryan Williams. Chris Morris able to handle that rebound. John Stockton setting it up. He has Greg Foster back on the floor. Up front along with Karl Malone and Chris Morris. Here's Stockton. The Jazz leading by 4, and Phil Jackson wants to poke it over.
Matt Guokas arrived at the game on his bicycle, but the Utah Jazz have certainly shown up here in the fourth quarter. Brian Russell, just 2 baskets now, both 3-pointers from the same spot. Brian Russell missed his first 6, now 2 straight 3s. And then the side pick and roll. Everybody focusing on Malone at the top. Greg Foster finishes the dunk. Antoine Carr, the team, the crowd, everything, the entire state of Utah on top of it right now.
You know me, Bill, I always like to make a grand entrance.
4 minutes gone by in the a 65-61 lead, and Jordan off the fake cuts it down to a 2-point lead. And this has become Michael Jordan time after a very quiet ball game.
And at this end of the floor, the Bulls have been very inconsistent in how they want to play this particular pick and roll. At times, Steve Kerr forcing it over to the top. At times, forcing it to the baseline.
Hoffer on that foul. That is his first. And for the Bulls, their first team foul. Remember, the home team has won 10 of the last 11 in finals competition. The Jazz with 22 straight wins here at the Delta Center. Morris. And the three-point shot this time comes up short, and a foul is called against Utah. That's number 4 on Karl Malone.
The Jazz out of sync offensively in that position, starting to stand around. They're bailed out here. A wild shot by Russell. Karl Malone with the quick and strong hands. Tough fourth foul now, but Jim Gray was just reporting that Jerry Sloan telling his guys, don't give Michael Jordan the special shots like those dunks. Make him work from the perimeter.
All right, Jordan using the pick. Jordan straight away, rebounded by Russell. He had the good look, but could not convert. Utah with the ball up by 2 with just under 7 minutes remaining. In the fourth quarter, Jeff Hornacek, despite injuring the left knee, back on the floor. He and Stockton at the guards. He thought Foster was cutting and obviously was not.
Foster should have cut that time. Utah is way too slow in getting into their offense. They may be a little burnt right now.
12th turnover by Utah. Chicago with just 6. Jordan. Russell lost his balance, but Jordan could not take advantage. Now Jordan off the fake. Yes. And he has tied the game at 65.
Very difficult shot. Fading behind the backboard. No margin for error on that particular shot.
16 for Jordan.
Brian Russell's going for far too many pump fakes.
Shot clock down to 6. Stockton looking for the 3. Using the screen. Now had to fire one up with the shot clock running down. It's a 24-second violation.
Well, Michael Jordan has had a couple of openings because he has been able to shed Brian Russell. This time pass and keeps moving. And that's the key to the play. But Russell does a good job at least forcing Michael further behind that backboard. And I don't know how he missed the side. By the way, Ron Harper, since he has come off the bench, has done a very good job on John Stockton on the pick-and-roll plays.
And how about Scottie Pippen? 10 rebounds, along with the 14 points. For Kukoc, who's had the hot hand. Had it knocked away by Foster, and a reach-in foul. It's on Foster.
Michael Jordan very upset with Tony Kukoc right now, right in his face, saying, drive the ball. Tony just does not have the confidence right now with his ball handling or ability to penetrate, and he is settling for that perimeter shot.
The Jazz standing on the defensive end, watching rather than moving toward those rebounds and defensive plays.
All right, here's Jordan. And tipped home by Pippen. Scottie Pippen so effective at going to the boards. The Bulls lead by 2. And Jerry Sloan calls for time. 5:22 to go in the fourth quarter.
Jordan down the lane. Everybody backs off him. He throws up the runner. And then Scottie Pippen anticipates the miss. Just gets way above the rim. Waits. And throws it down with his left.
Well, Jeff Hornacek came over to help out on the Jordan shot. Nobody helped Hornacek. And that enabled Pippen to get in there for the follow.
So it's the Bulls by 2. We'll be back here in Salt Lake City in a moment. Michael Jordan showing some signs in the fourth quarter after he was silent in the 30s at 3 of 6 from the field here in the fourth.
Well, Michael's not going to get a higher percentage shot as the Utah defense didn't shut down. Feeling it with the jump shot, a tough one there as he was challenged by Brian Russell.
The big 4 tonight, Karl Malone on the left, just 17 shot attempts. 9 points in the paint, 10 from the perimeter. This crowd, they got to call Karl Malone out. It's to MVP time right now. Forget the fadeaway. He's got to get inside, either power his way to the hoop or earn a trip to the free throw line.
And he's playing with the 4 fouls. Bulls have a 2-point lead. Well, here's Malone. Played very well by Rodman, who just returned. Shot clock at 4. Russell. And deflected out. Last touch by the Bulls.
That rebound, everybody grabbing and pushing and holding rather than getting in the air and snatching that ball.
They get the new 24. Hornacek is fouled. Hornacek looking for the jump shot. Jordan seeking the strip. He's called for that foul.
Karl Malone, you see his points in the paint tonight. Jump shooting has been enormous. Just 5 shot attempts down low. That won't get it done. This crowd needs an MVP chant right now.
And Hornacek, an excellent free throw shooter, so that's a rare miss. A reminder coming up after the game, most of these NBC stations, it's men behaving badly and wings. And for those of you who would like to continue with the NBA Finals, as usual, we'll have the post-game special on CNBC immediately after the game. Our entire cast will recount the game with highlights, live press conference interviews, and guests as we look back at game number 4.
Well, Karl Malone is being pushed out of that post to about 17 feet. And with Dennis Rodman on him now, Ron Harper's doing a good job of coming down and doubling, making Rodman pick up his dribble and give up the ball.
Bulls by 1, just under 5 left of the 4th. He's been off, but Rodman with a critical rebound. Dennis Rodman with only his 5th rebound.
That's 5 more than the cutout that they just injected.
Pippen coming up short, but comes back to Longley. And a new 24 for Chicago.
And again, you're never going to beat the Bulls unless you just dominate the defensive backboard.
Jordan picked up by Ostertag. Jordan thought he was fouled. Ostertag knocked it away. Coming up on 4 minutes to go in the 4th. Hornacek trying to get it inside to Malone. And the foul on the Bulls.
And Michael Jordan is hopping mad. Usually when he starts to go to the basket, he's going to get the benefit of the doubt. Didn't get it there as Ostertag wrapped his arm and then running back the other way. Michael's going to run into Ostertag to give him a shot.
Foul on Rodman is 4th. Non-shooting foul. Both teams have 3. Just under 4 minutes remaining in the 4th. Utah down by 1 as they try to trap Stockton. Russell met by Pippen.
Harper, tremendous defense.
Russell. Oh, the back tap by Malone. They get the new 24.
Matt, we were talking about pushing Karl Malone out. Hey, nobody in this league should be able to push Karl Malone off that box.
Stockton finding Russell. And Russell called for the offensive foul.
Smart defense by Chicago right now. And a lot of teams do this to Utah coming down the stretch. Do anything to get the ball out of the hands of John Stockton. Make other people make decisions. And in this case, Brian Russell, they would prefer to make him the guy doing what has to be done. And he was just trying to draw a foul and just charge right into Pippen.
Chicago calling for time. And here the reaction from the crowd off that last call. It's the Bulls 67, the Jazz 66. Well, this is a matchup of 2 of the highest scoring teams in the NBA. Chicago first, Utah second. And you saw what the score is. We have game number 5 coming up here in Salt Lake City on Wednesday here on NBC. If there is a game 6, it'll be in Chicago on Friday. If there's a game 7 in Chicago next Sunday. The Bulls 67 and the Jazz 66 with 3:20 remaining in the 4th quarter.
Marv, Jim Gray reporting from the Utah huddle. Don't be like robots, Jerry Sloan yelling at his guys. Be aggressive, be assertive, and don't let Michael Jordan get a 6-foot jump shot.
Oh, how about he almost got about 6 feet in the air? How about that elevation? He was going to make sure he got up over everybody to release.
Bulls now lead by 3. Jordan with 18. 8 of the 18 here in the fourth quarter. Just under 3 minutes left in the fourth. Malone again from the outside. Rebounded by Pippen, and here comes Jordan. Chased from the angle. Michael Jordan puts it away on the breakaway. And the Bulls lead by 5.
Defense on the pick and roll. Excellent that time. Scottie Pippen rotating and challenging the Malone perimeter shot.
It is all on the line here for the Utah Jazz. Trailing 2 games to 1. Good play by Rodman to knock it away. If Chicago can hold on, they'll take a commanding 3-1 lead in this series. The Jazz trying to tie the series at 2. Antoine Carr now checks in, replacing Greg Ostertag. Utah with 3 timeouts, 3 conventional, plus a 20. Chicago with 2 left. Both teams with 3 team fouls. The Jazz missing their last 5 shots. They've gone 5.5 minutes without a field goal.
And the Jazz, known for their sharp execution, especially down the stretch, has been very careless. They're not getting the spacing, so they can't set up the picks, and they can't get the hard cuts from Karl Malone.
11 on the shot clock. Carl's not pushing hard enough. Stockton tries to get it all back with the 3.
John Stockton with an enormous shot to bring the Jazz within 2. We approach 2 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. Jordan to the fadeaway. Yes! Michael Jordan gives the Bulls a 73-69 lead. Stockton played tightly by Hoffer. 1:50 to go in the fourth. Hornacek shaking off Jordan, going to the left hand, but could not convert. And it was saved by Rodman, who called for time.
Utah, which has such a beautiful set offense, just scrambling, throwing it up with a prayer right now. But it's Michael Jordan able to work one-on-one. First to come off the screen and hit the jumper. Then on the fast break, keyed by the great Chicago defense and rebounding, Scottie Pippen finding him. Karl Malone made a half-hearted effort to get there. Then if you're going to allow Jordan to come to the middle of the floor here, Ryan Russell, you need to force him back to the baseline. Jordan's not going to miss that shot in this game situation.
Down to 1:45 remaining in the fourth. Well, coming into this fourth quarter, a game that was tied at 56, the question is who would take over? Would it be Michael Jordan? Would it be Karl Malone? Well, to this point, it's been Michael Jordan.
And in game 3, a sluggish third quarter by Michael came on strong in the fourth quarter. How this man rejuvenates him after playing hard all game, but just has a sense when the game is on the line, he wants that ball in his hand.
This title is on the line, and Karl Malone has not had it in the fourth quarter. The great start, but quiet really since then. Just 19 points, not enough shot attempts. 4 attempts for Karl Malone in the fourth.
Chicago now with 1 timeout left. Utah with 3 and a 20. 1:45 to go in the fourth. The Bulls in possession. They lead by 4. Jordan puts the move on Russell. And lost it to Stockton. Here's John Stockton on the breakaway. And rejected by Jordan. What a foul.
That is a tough call against Jordan here. Stockton is going to come up with the great blind side strip. When Michael turns his back here, here comes John, and he's got nothing but ball. And then the foot race is on. Jordan knows he can get there, but John takes off from too close to the basket. You've got to extend from the free throw line and reach. That's a great block.
And what Michael Jordan is complaining about, that John Stockton waves him off. John knows he's in trouble right now, but a wave off with that left arm, hoping to just get some contact as the Utah Jazz looking for their first fast break points of this game.
And that the 4th steal of the game for Stockton, who is on the line for the first time tonight. John Stockton, an excellent free throw shooter, 85% during the regular season.
John Stockton shot that layup jumping up rather than jumping out. It was a perfect block by Jordan. No foul should have been called.
1:35 4:31 remaining in the fourth quarter. Stockton missing, which is most unusual. It's a 3-point Chicago lead. And they work it down to a minute 20 to go. Jordan played by Russell. Down to 5 on the shot clock. Pippen takes the from 3-pointer. And a foul on Pippen. For the Bulls, it is their 15th foul. 1:03 to go in the fourth quarter. The Bulls by 3 points, and John Stockton is back at the line.
Well, a shaky possession all the way around for the Chicago Bulls. Michael Jordan couldn't find an opening, got into the lane, and then Pippen had to force the shot, and then inexplicably fouling John Stockton.
You look at the numbers there. John Stockton just ice at the line in the fourth quarter. But the Jazz have missed 2 critical free throws down the stretcher. Hornacek missed one when it was 65, 66, right in that range. And then Stockton, the previous trip down. This one has to go.
And Utah 12 of 18 at the line. They've been off at the line here this evening.
Offense, defense, substitution for the Bulls. Kukoc and Kerr in for Rodman and Harper.
It's a 1-point Chicago lead. Just under 1 minute remaining in the fourth quarter. Game 4 of the NBA Finals with the Bulls up 2 games to 1. And Jordan comes up short. Stockton fires down on the line. And the Jazz have taken a 1-point lead.
Jordan takes the jumper, and then Karl Malone just keeps running. The shortest guy in the court, John Stockton, gets the rebound. 1 bounce and no left hand on the ball over the top. Nothing Jordan can do. Karl Malone, the best running big man in the game, just keeps it going. Pounds by everybody. Total concentration, no denial.
And that is the first field goal on a fast break for Utah in this ballgame, and the Bulls were forced to use their final timeout.
John Stockton, you work on this pass your whole life. You rarely get it. Michael totally misjudged it. Stockton, normally so stoic, he says, yeah. 2, 3. Give him the pogo stick out there.
That was kind of the way he jumped when he hit the game winner against Houston.
The Bulls had a 73-69 lead with a minute and 45 remaining. Michael Jordan was hitting his shots, but has not been able to hit his last couple. Utah in the postseason at home at 9-0. They have won 22 straight at home. The last time they've been beaten here at home was in overtime by Seattle back on the 23rd of February. They are desperately trying to tie the series at 2. So it has come down to 44 and 5/10 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter. The Jazz up by 1. Remember Michael Jordan with the game winner in game 1 at the buzzer in Chicago.
Mark, the shot clock here favors the home team, Utah Jazz. If Chicago is forced to run it down, Utah will get the last opportunity at this ballgame.
And Utah has a foul to give.
Chicago is over the limit. Chicago does not have any timeouts remaining. Steve Kerr is back on the floor. It's Kerr with Kukoc, Pippen, Longley, and Jordan. And Kukoc handles. Jordan, played by Russell. And Kerr for 3. Carr tips the rebound. And it's been knocked out of bounds. Hornacek had it knocked out, but Patton was able to call for time. Dick Bavetta indicating a timeout. It will be Utah ball with 26 and 2/10 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter.
For Utah right now, get the ball to John Stockton's hand. Everybody in the world knows this ball's going to Jordan. He has to give it up. The rebound again. Hornacek fighting to get it. The big dog, Antoine Carr, kept it alive. Dick Bavetta right on top of the timeout call. Didn't look like Hornacek really indicated it. But Utah now, John Stockton only handles that ball because he's the Iceman from the line.
Well, I guess the big decision for Utah in that possession was whether or not they were going to double team Michael Jordan. Of course, when he puts the ball on the floor, you got to come and help. But on that pass to Steve Kerr, I thought Steve rushed his shot. Earlier in the season, Steve passed up what a lot of people thought was an open shot. Turned out a man was running on him, and Phil Jackson told him then, anytime you're open, I don't care what the situation, let it fly. And I thought Steve rushed it.
Ryan Russell played a great defensive job. Rodman not really a factor here down the stretch. I think the Bulls have to foul right away here, Matt.
Well, Jeff Hornacek was able to make that save along the baseline. As we said, he called for time. Tough to see from that previous angle. Let's take another look. Let's see. Here's the miss by Kerr, and then Hornacek, yes, called for time. Apparently, he verbally called for the timeout.
The reverse angle this time, swallowed up there by the Bulls. He had already made the timeout call, and Bavetta stepping right in.
So we're down to 26 and 2/10 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter. The Jazz leading by 1 point. Most unusual low-scoring game between these two high-scoring teams. Jordan with 22, picking it up late, Malone with 21. Chicago does not have any timeouts left, and they are already over the foul limit.
And that's a big factor. It's a difference of 3 on the shot clock, so Chicago can't rely on their defense now to try to stop without that timeout. They've got to look for a steal or two here and then commit a foul.
Foul immediately, but now they're just going to run out of time here.
All right, here's Malone. That will be the man you'd want to foul. Malone is fouled with 18 seconds remaining in the fourth. Well, there is Utah owner Larry Miller, who just arrived at the game. Larry Miller is a Mormon, as a devout member of the Mormon faith. Does not attend Sunday games, considers the Sabbath holy, says it's just an individual decision, wants to spend the day with his family. He missed game 1, would miss a game 7 next Sunday if the series goes that far. He's just arrived here after spending the day with his family. So Larry Miller has just made his appearance here at the Delta Center.
Scottie Pippen trying to talk Karl Malone out of it. Hornacek right in there. This is the situation Karl's dreamed of for a week.
Karl Malone will miss the critical free throws, which led to the game winner by Michael Jordan. Game 1 hits on the first for a 2-point Jazz lead with 18 seconds remaining.
He made 4 straight coming down the stretch of game 3, but he told me yesterday he wanted to be in a tougher situation, similar to the way he was in game 1. This is very close.
And now Utah calling for time. So Chicago with no timeouts left. Utah has 1 and a 20. 18 seconds left in regulation. The Jazz up 75-73. All right, as we watch Larry Miller react to that first made free throw, you saw the yes from Larry as Karl Malone was able to hit. For more of that, let's go to Jim Gray. Jim?
All right, thank you, Marv. I'm here with a very nervous Larry Miller. You just arrived at the game. Was this your first look at the score of this free throw?
Well, I'd listened to the score on the game on the radio for a minute or two before we got here, and this was the first time I'd seen any of it. So, boy, this is as good as it gets. Michael's doing his thing, and we're doing our thing. What a great game, no matter what happens.
I guess you're very nervous. We're going to let you watch the game right here. It's almost better that you didn't see it, huh?
Yeah, you're right. I'm not sure I'd be standing up by now.
All right, let's send it back out to Marv.
All right, thank you, Jim. Karl Malone to the line again. He's 4 or 5 at the line this evening. 18 seconds remaining. In this fourth quarter, the Bulls are out of timeouts. It's a 2-point lead. Hits on both. The Bulls now need a three-pointer. Trailing by 3. Jordan with 10 seconds. He fires the three. They stopped it. Final seconds. Russell goes to the hoop. The Utah Jazz have defeated the Chicago Bulls with 5 tenths of a second remaining, and the series is tied at 2. Scored the last 9 points in the final minute 45. They've defeated the Bulls 78-73. Let's go to Ahmad Rashad with Karl Malone and John Stockton. Ahmad.
All right, thanks, Marv. John, this was a game simply of wills and who wanted it better, and you guys played so strong down the stretch.
Well, we made some big plays, and we got fortunate, really. Carl's even tip out at the end was a big play, so that's what we need. They're a great team.
And you got a lot of confidence coming from out of game 3, huh, going into this one?
Maybe. It's better than losing it. You don't know if you can win, but we played well in that game. It carried over a little bit. Hopefully this can carry over to the next one.
All right. And Carl, the situation you were in at the end of the game, similar to the situation in game 1, this is the situation you were looking for, wasn't it?
You know, it's a situation I was looking for. I had said earlier, I wish I was in that situation again. Sometime in life, you never get that. I just want to block everything out and concentrate. You know what? I can't say how proud I am of these guys. We never gave up. And it's going to be an all-out war on Wednesday night.
It looks like 2 separate teams from the first 2 games to the last 2.
Well, I think we play with a lot of focus since we've been home, and we need that kind of effort. And I'll tell you what, when we play together as a unit, we're tough to beat. Chicago got an unbelievable team. They never gave up, and they're going to come at us real hard on Wednesday. I thank God to give us that energy that we needed down the stretch.
All right, Carl, congratulations on a great game.
Thank you.
All right, back to you, Marv.
All right, thanks, Ahmad. As it turns out, tonight, the second lowest scoring game in NBA Finals history. Let's get to Jim Gray back on the floor. Jim?
All right, thank you very much, Marv. I'm with Jerry Sloan and Larry Miller. Larry, you just had an emotional word. Repeat what you just said to Jerry Sloan.
I just said we didn't show any quit at all. I'm proud of these guys.
Jerry, how about that game? Winding down there in the last minute, you're 5 back. What were your thoughts at that time?
Well, you know, you always feel like you have a chance. Where John made a couple of sensational plays that really gave us a big lift. And obviously, Carl's free throws was important, and John making his is also important today.
Your reaction on the fast break was one of those things that people are never going to forget. When Stockton threw that ball to Malone, it was like you were more nervous that the pass was going to be completed.
I hollered, "Oh no!" first. I have to be honest. Then John made a great pass, and of course, Carl is a great catcher, and that's what makes them work well together.
Jerry, the energy level of this game was much beneath the Jazz's energy level in Game 3. How did you manage to get it back in that last couple of minutes?
I think John kept us alive. He came out hard in the third quarter and hit a couple of shots. It seemed like he kept saying, we're going to try to have some way to win this game, even when we were down. We're struggling a little bit coming down the stretch. He said, there's still a lot of time. If we just keep playing, we'll be all right.
All right, Jerry, congratulations. Larry, are you going to consider not coming to the next game based on the result? You did so well.
Hang on one sec.
Yeah. All right, he gets a hug here. He didn't hear that question. Back to you, Marv.
All right, Larry Miller had other things on his mind, apparently. Hugging Karl Malone for the victory. The Jazz make it 23 straight here at home for the Bulls. 4 straight road losses in the finals. Here's a look at that big play. But The rebound reaching in as Malone was able to tip it to Stockton, and then Stockton found Russell, and this ended it with 0.5 of a second remaining. A dramatic come-from-behind victory by the Utah Jazz over the defending NBA champion Chicago Bulls to tie the series at 2. And here is Utah Jazz owner Larry Miller, who turned up here at the Delta Center in the final minutes. He's watching it on the monitor, and he is celebrating as he saw Brian Russell put it down. Again, the final score, the Jazz 78 and the Bulls 73. This NBA Finals series is all even. Join us Wednesday in prime time, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific for the Bulls and the Jazz in Game 5 right here on NBC. Coming up next on most of these NBC stations, Men Behaving Badly and Wings. Must-see TV. That's right after the game. They're next on NBC. And for those of you who'd like to continue with the NBA Finals, much to talk about, interviews, post-game activities, all available on CNBC immediately after these messages. So for Matt Dukas and Bill Walton, Ahmad Rashad, Jim Gray, I'm Marv Albert saying so long from Salt Lake City, Utah. This has been a